What's going on here? Okay. Hello. My name is Curtis Morrison, and welcome to Let's Talk Immigration, episode 83. Um, and today, I'm going to talk mostly about the development from yesterday in the DV litigation. Basically, the order from the opinion in Good Luck, which is also consolidated with Go and Ray and Muhammad Fong John Kennedy and Gomez. All those cases are combined into one for the purposes of the appeals court. So to recap how we got here. In 2020, President Trump put into place policies, his administration did, that suspended the DV program unlawfully. Okay. Judge Mehta was clear on that the Trump administration misinterpreted the law. And so that's why he issued injunctive relief and later summary judgment. Okay. 2021, Biden did not undo a lot of the things that Trump did to suspend the DV program. And so DV 2021, they were prejudiced for the first half of the fiscal year, more than the first half. And so Judge Mehta again issued injunctive relief, and Judge Chutkan did as well in another case. So we won these victories before Judge Mehta in 2020 and Judge Mehta and Judge Chutkan in 2021, where those judges reserved visas for issuance later once different things were settled. Well, the Biden administration appealed all of those orders. And so it was the Biden administration that said, hey, let's take this to the appeals court. Otherwise, 17,000, 18,000 people would be issued visas by now. But the Biden administration stood in the way of that. And as a result, we've spent the last couple of years waiting on the outcome of the appeal. So yesterday, appeals court issued its opinion. I'll skim through it and go over it. If you have a question about the opinion, you can put it in the comments, and I'll also go through the comments questions after I skim and do an overview of the opinion itself. Okay, so let me type present, share screen. I'm going to share my screen. And it's going to need to be bigger so you know what I'm talking about. So this is the cases numbers over here. Someone mentioned, hey, those case numbers do not include Muhammad Fong John Kennedy and Aker. Well, that's because those case numbers are consolidated with this case number right here, 1419 Gomez. Okay. This was before three judges, Sirenives, the chief judge, Henderson, and Katskis. And this is an opinion of all three judges. There was not a dissenting opinion. All three judges agreed on this, although Judge Katskis is the one that wrote the opinion. So here's what the judgment is. You know, the order explains the judgment, but the judgment is that the orders that the government challenged are reversed. So all the orders that Judge Mehta issued that the government's challenging are reversed, and all the ones that Judge Chutkan issued are reversed. Now, important point, if you're already like issued a visa and a green card and you're in the US and you're happy like with a green card, this doesn't impact you. This only impacts the people that were awaiting relief. Okay. The Gomez class members, the Good Luck plaintiffs, those waiting for to be interviewed for DV 2021 under the Ray order are go. Okay. So it doesn't affect green card holders, people that already have green cards. You're not affected by this. Okay. It lists all the lawyers. Okay. So they acknowledge in these 4 consolidated appeals, the district court held that the Department of State unlawfully suspended, deprioritized, and delayed the processing of applications for diversity visas for 2 years, 2020 and 21, at the height of the pandemic. And as a remedy, the courts ordered the department to continue processing applications and issuing visas, and they hold that the courts lack the authority to do that relief. So this is a higher court saying a lower court did something that they should not do. Okay. Little break. If you speak Arabic at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock in 50 minutes, I'm going to do an Arabic live with Sahir. Okay. If you'd rather get a translation like that. Okay. So the first section, section 1A, they talk about the background of the diversity visa program. I know my clients already know all this already. You already understand the DV program. So B, they talk about the pandemic. Basically, they recite the policies that were put into place that prejudiced the diversity visa selectees for 2020 and 2021. Interesting point, the Biden administration issued a proclamation where they recognized that people were prejudiced by Trump's policies. Yet, they still, same administration still appealed the orders and caused this damage also. It's a little crazy. Biden speaks with 2 tongues, is what I've heard some people say. Okay. So this is the background on what happened with COVID and the things that, the policies that State Department put in effect. Okay. C is the section about the litigation posture, like what happened here. And so they do an overview. They don't go in deep dive and explain that Gomez was filed and then Muhammad was filed and then Aker and then Fong John Kennedy. They don't go into all that, but they go into what happened in DV 2020 and then what happened in DV 2021 real shortly. Okay. And they talk about how the visas were reserved, 9,000 visas from 2020 and almost 9,000, 8,500 for 2021. Okay. So, and they mention here, and this deserves a mention, the Gold plaintiffs represented by Charles Cuck, they actually did a cross appeal where there were things they didn't like about Judge Mehta's order, where he made kind of a math, a different interpretation of math and came up with a number that they didn't like. So anyway, I'm not stating that correctly, exactly how it happened, but there was a cross appeal and the Gold plaintiffs argued that part of the order should be fixed, but that also didn't work. The appeals court's not buying that either. Okay. So now section 2, they talk about the arguments that were made by the appellants and the appellees, the plaintiffs and the defendants, basically. Basically, there's 4 things here. Let me highlight. The plaintiffs argued, and the district court agreed, that 1182F proclamation prevents entry into the United States, but does not prevent the issuance of visas. We are right on that. And this court did not overturn that, interestingly. So Judge Chutkin's and Judge Mehta's orders on that particular issue are still good law. Of course, they're not binding on other courts, but they're persuasive authority because this court did not overturn that because they didn't look at it. B, the State Department guidance was arbitrary. Same thing. This appeals court didn't look at that. Third thing, the department unreasonably delayed the processing of their applications. This appeals court didn't look at that. So the 3 things that you had hoped that the appeals court would look at before they approach the remedy situation, they've decided that they were not going to look at it. And so they say, we need not resolve any of this because the 4th issue is dispositive. The district courts had no authority to to require the department to issue diversity visas past the statutory deadlines. And what they're talking about is September 30th of 2020 and September 30th of 2021. To support their opinion, of course, there's a ton of past orders that are precedents, and so they point to those. Some of them go back really far. I think this is a case from 1874. 1946. Okay, so that's the section where they talk about the past law. And now they even go back to the English Court of Chancery, like they're pointing to law before the United States existed. Okay. Section B, the remedy ordered here, instructing the executive branch to reserve, process, and issue visas on terms devised by the courts is irreconcilable with these settled principles. So I'm looking for this one thing that they say that really makes me angry. They end this section with, the statutory guideline is clear and neither history nor context affords any basis for departing from it. Okay, I take issue with this. They deliberately said we're not going to look at the context, and then they say here that the context does not give them a basis from departing from the history. How do they know? Because they didn't even look at the context. Unfortunately, I am not a higher court to this 3-judge panel. So if this opinion is appealed, that is one of the issues that I would like to raise. So the second part of this is the district courts had no authority to order the State Department to keep processing applications for diversity visas and issuing the visas beyond the end of the relevant years. Consular non-reviewability was not brought up by this opinion because it wasn't argued by the parties. That's if you're a DV applicant waiting for an interview, this is something that you probably didn't pay any attention to, and it's just a little legal issue that is not resolved by this opinion, is all it says. So now these legal arguments are too complicated for me to explain, so I'm just going to skip them. Okay. This one is not too complicated for me to explain. It's very easy for me to explain. So it says the plaintiffs invoke Amakrami. They make it sound like we found this case from like under a rock somewhere in Arkansas. That's not what happened. Amakrami was decided by this court. Okay. I just got an error message. I don't know why. Okay. Amakrami was decided by this court. So when we invoked Amakrami, we're saying, hey, look, remember back in 2019 when this appeals court said that relief could come even after the end of the fiscal year for diversity visa selectees? That's what we're here for. I still remember the day this opinion was issued, and I was in Los Angeles in the office at a WeWork, and Raphael, Urena, and Omar were there, and we were all looking at it together going, gosh, this could be an opportunity for a lawsuit in the future. So it's kind of crazy that that actually happened. So what they're saying here, though, is that Amakrami, they did not decide that the court could actually reserve the visas. They just said the court could do something. And what they've decided here is, let me see if I can find this. Oh, no, I skipped it. What they decided here is that the court could issue sanctions against the government, like that no, which doesn't even make sense. How is that a remedy that's appropriate for visa applicants? Because that doesn't do anything for you. But that's what it says. That's what they came to the resolution that Al-Makrami stood for. Yeah, the court could do something, but not anything for the visa applicants. They could just do sanctions against the government. So now, in the future, I'm going to start asking for sanctions against the government. I don't know what that means, whether that means putting government attorneys in jail or it means like finding them money, either one of those things, or even other things. I'll try to brainstorm and come up with new things, new ways that we can propose that judges sanction the State Department and government attorneys. But if that's what they would prefer, anyway, I get a little frustrated when I'm reviewing this order. Let me skip over this stuff here. Okay, so we made some arguments, appropriation cases. This opinion is wrong on this. We made some arguments that when Congress allocates money for the executive branch to spend, the executive branch has to spend it. They don't have a choice. If Congress allocates visas for the executive branch to issue, the executive branch has to issue these visas. They don't have a choice. Well, they have decided that that analogy was not strong, and they're wrong, but courts can be wrong. So they have made a mistake there. What else is going on here? Oh, here's where they say, we need not consider whether there's a case of bad faith or undue delay in complying with a timely entered injunction. Well, there was undue delay. Judge Mehta and Judge Hutkin both found that there were undue delay in every single order they issued. So they said the district court could issue contempt sanctions against the government, even if it could not grant relief directly to the visa applicants past the end of the fiscal year. This is just crazy law, because when you go to a judge, like the part of the remedy is that it has to benefit the plaintiffs. How would the court slapping the State Department on the wrist benefit the plaintiffs? Like it doesn't really make sense. But if that's what they want in the future, that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to tell every judge, hey, don't forget, you could issue contempt sanctions against the government. See the good luck order. Okay. So this last paragraph is the biggest, it's the conclusion. So if you read and understand this, you understand what happened. Once fiscal years 2020 and 2021 ended, the plaintiffs lost their eligibility for diversity visas. The district courts erred, that means they made a mistake, in asserting equitable authority to override these clear statutory deadlines, which foreclosed the prospective relief sought in these cases. Accordingly, we reverse the remedial orders challenged by the government, reject the go cross appeal, and remand the cases with instructions to enter judgment for the government. Okay. There's one thing here that I'll point out, sort of a footnote. The clerk, let me see here, is instructed not to actually issue the mandate of the court until 7 days to give the opportunity for the plaintiffs and their counsel to decide whether or not they want to seek in-bank review. What in-bank review is like a review by the entire panel of circuit court judges in the district, in the circuit court of District of Columbia. So instead of 3 people, I can't remember the number, I think it's 12 or 13 or something, would be voting. So we have 3 options now. Oh, let me stop this screen share. Here are our 3 options. We can accept that this has been a very long battle. financially for a lot of families, psychologically, physically. I know a lot of people have got sick worrying about it. We can accept that, this is over. It's run its course, and false hope is a bad thing. So everybody could move on, and there are reasons to do that, right? Option two, we could appeal it to the in bank, is what they call it, BANC, where the full court hears the issue, or actually just reviews the issue and then issues their opinion on whether or not they uphold this order, or they don't. And then the third option is a petition for certiorari to the Supreme Court. The petition to certiorari to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court does not have to accept that. And the Supreme Court does not accept the majority of petitions for cert. Certiorari it's Latin. I can't say it. So even if we decided to petition to take this to the Supreme Court, we would need the Supreme Court's permission for them to review it. And also, the Supreme Court is not fast. That could take 2 or 3 years. So the first option, let's all move on, makes a little bit more sense when you think about the option that the Supreme Court might take a few years. The middle option about going to the in-bank, I'm kind of a fan of that, but I haven't got to talk to my colleagues about it, okay? I've texted briefly with Raphael. I've emailed briefly with a couple of the attorneys on the Go team. I've read the messages that have been put out publicly by the Gomez Class Counsel, and I've emailed and texted with one of the Gomez Class Counsels, and I'm waiting. Probably next week. I want everybody to cool down a little bit, and then let's decide the best path to move forward. That being said, we do have a deadline here. 7 days after the disposition of any timely motion. So this weekend will be a lot of thoughts and talk, maybe back and forth with the Gomez Good Luck Go Ray Council, and maybe next week we'll come out with a clear vision on what everybody wants to do. And it could be a situation where different people want to do different things, right? The Gomez Class Council might want to just move on. But we might not want to on behalf of our DV 2020 clients. And which would be an interesting legal situation. And for DV 2021, same thing. Part of the DV 2021 selectees are represented by me and Raphael on our team in Good Luck and Ray, and also a few smaller cases that got consolidated, and also the big Jacob Rosales case that got consolidated with Good Luck. And then some other DVs 2021s are represented by Charles Cuck's team, and I understand that they're having discussions to decide what to do to go forward. So if the question is the journey over? My answer is probably, but I'm not saying yes, okay? And that's because there's a chance that we might continue fighting. But here's the thing. I want everybody to move on. Even if we continue fighting, if someday we figure this out, that's great. But here's what is not sustainable. Everybody keeping hope alive every single day, texting the attorney and making a tweet, DV 2020 pound, go. We need to shift and move on and hope for the best for other things. However, I'm not saying that we're not going to appeal it. I'm just saying I want people to start accepting that this really happened. Okay, the appeals court really, really did side with the Biden administration and decided that 18,000 fewer immigrants would come to the U.S. this year. That really happened. Okay, I guess I'm ready to jump into questions, although I'm scared. Gunnar says, is it really over? Probably. That's what I'm going to continue to say. Probably. Are you currently trying to initiate settlement discussions with the government regarding our case? The answer to that is no, because we just lost. What motivation would the Biden administration have to enter settlement negotiations with the party that they just beat? Like, they're having champagne, they're celebrating, they're saying, yay, we won, we won. There's no reason why they would come to us to do settlement discussions. Settlement discussions, you have to have leverage. We don't have that right now. There was never a point in this litigation where where the Biden administration was interested in settlement. Okay, they were 100% against the diversity visa selectees from the very beginning of the DV 2020 litigation, which didn't start with Gomez. It started with a case called Nguyen, Nguyen, that was brought by Jim Hacking, that was also before Judge Mehta. And I think that it sort of like is an important case because the State Department told Judge Mehta everything's fine. This case is premature. And they basically lied to Judge Mehta. And when Gomez and we came back with Muhammad Fangjong and Kennedy, and Charles came back with Aker, came back to Judge Mehta later in the fiscal year, he realized that he was lied to in the Nguyen case by the State Department. So that was an important case. I'm sorry, I'm talking like a historian, and I realize that many of you don't care about the history. Lamine says hi, despite the outcome. Hi, Lamine. And he says, thank you for your efforts and all the other lawyers, which is an important point, okay? I didn't do this by myself. Raphael didn't do this by himself. We had so many attorneys on this team that if I tried to list them, so many paralegals, I wouldn't list them. To name a few, Christina Gazarian, I talked to her yesterday. She's out on her own now. Jonathan Aftalion, same thing. He's on his own now in LA. Jana Al-Akras, Alexander George. I shouldn't have started this because there's no way I'm going to list everybody, right? Catalina Solanas, law clerk Banan Al-Akras. I'm not going to list all these attorneys. Abadir Barre in New York, great attorney. So anyway, thank you for noticing that it is other lawyers also. Was not just me. Okay, one day we may. Oh, Philip Duclos, who's doing a different kind of law right now. Yeah, but like was responsible for the party section on a complaint with 24,000 plaintiffs. Also, like 60 or so paralegals. So grateful for all the work they did. I'm sorry. Let me get back to your sentence. One day we may be colleagues because of those lawsuits. I'm really considering going to law school. That is great, Hanny. And you won't be the first one. Believe it or not, there are a couple of DV 2020 selectees who made it in due to the lawsuit who are already in law school. Isn't that crazy? So the world needs more justice, and the way you get that is through lawyers. So, Hanny, I want you to go to law school. Ennis says, thank you. Thank you, Ennis. Hanny says, now what really frustrates me is not the loss itself, but 2 years waiting for a kind of a moot case. They could have, that's interesting. If they knew that they were going to do this, why didn't they do it 2 years ago? And I do not know the answer to that. Thank you for your great effort. You're welcome. Good luck. Not a surprise that the Federalist Society judges came to that opinion, but I'm really disappointed by Judge Srinivas. I can understand that sentiment. If any of you all saw that movie that I was in, Youth v. Gov, about the federal climate change lawsuit, you'll know that that's kind of what I did before immigration. And Judge Srinivas actually disappointed us in that kind of litigation before. So a case called Alex L. back in 2014, 2015 or something. So I guess every 10 years he does that. But I can't say mean things about judges because I'll be in front of them again, right? So it seems we have three options: going to Supreme Court, or full panel review, or give up. Which option is more likely, Curtis? Omar, you have summed it up very well. I don't know what option is more likely because I have not talked enough with my colleagues and also with my plaintiffs. I'm buried in messages from you all, and I'm getting a feel for, do you really want to go on this journey for 3 more years? Because I'm getting messages where people say things like, I'd just rather kill myself than wait another day. Well, maybe then we better not keep going, right? So it's a tough decision to know whether or not to move forward. It's not in the language I know. It's funny, 21 months for 16 pages. If Judge Mehta didn't see something wrong, he would not do something out of his authority. Judge Mehta is an awesome judge. That is funny, yes. What about DB 2021? Merit, those journeys are over. That's what this just said, okay? I realize that you sent your message before I went into it. Part of this order says Congress has imposed a ceiling but not a floor on the number of diversity visas to be issued each fiscal year. I hate that they said that. Mean any administration can do only 10,000 visas or maybe less, and no court can review that and give victims reparation? Honey, you have put the hammer on the nail. You're absolutely right. And the Trump administration is going to look to this order and suspend the diversity visa program again. I am worried for diversity visa 2025 selectees who are right now like completing their DS-260s, thinking that they're going to get interviews, and basically they're going to have interviews in October and November and December, and then because when Trump comes into office, he can point to this order and say, it's a ceiling, it's not a floor. I don't have to issue any diversity visas. So thank you, Biden administration, for giving Trump a tool to close the diversity visa program. Okay. Sometimes people ask me questions that get me excited. Eduardo says, good evening, Mr. Curtis. I just wanted to know, after the government won its appeal, what do you think as lawyers? What I think it was a very bad opinion. That's what I think. The outcome is not only unjust, but also humiliating to let us wait all those years and come up with such a result. I think that I agree. Okay. Eduardo says, I just wanted to know about Judge Mehta's idea. Judge Mehta did his idea. His order was like 90 pages or something. He told you what he thought. Okay. They disagree with him. It doesn't go back and forth. Judge Mehta said, this is the way it should be. And they said, no, you're wrong. They're a higher court. And so the conversation between Judge Mehta and them is over. Did Judge Mehta accept the challenge? It's not a challenge. This is a higher court. So Judge Mehta doesn't get a say in this, okay? And until he is a lower court than this court. So his decision has been overturned. But technically, he will need to issue orders that reverse his prior orders. Same with Judge Chutkan. And that's not going to happen in the next 7 days, but it'll happen after that. And this order also means that Supreme Court, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, can never review a case related to this category of visas because fiscal year would be ended. This does not mean that. And let me tell you why. This is not the highest court in the land. The Supreme Court is a higher court. Also, this opinion is not binding on any district court or circuit court anywhere in the United States except the District Court in the District of Columbia. So, if Trump suspends the DV program on January 20th, 2025, you can count on me and my team to do litigation against the Trump administration, but we will not file it in the District of Columbia. We will file it in California or Texas or Florida, or I just found out South Dakota has 5 judges that are Democrats. Somebody told me that today. We will file it in maybe Minnesota, because there are opportunities to pick your venue when you have a plaintiff that is domiciled that lives in that venue, right? And so a lot of times with DVs, the DV selectee will be issued, come to the U.S. and be living somewhere in the U.S. And then their derivative spouse is back home and in an AP or something. So that's one opportunity that we could do for venue. The other one is sometimes H-1B visa holders that are inside the U.S. or J-1s or F-1s are inside the U.S. win the DV, but they don't do adjustment of status, and then instead they choose consular processing. They would be good plaintiffs to give us venue other than DC. So we do not have to file our group lawsuits in Washington, D.C. in the future, if that happens. So probably giving more of our strategy out than I should. I can see a situation where a future government attorney is going to point to this video for a future judge. Hi, future judge. Okay. How is that legal? Is they didn't see the context. Well, it's legal because the court said it's legal, and they're the court. Did they make a mistake? Yes. But Amin says hi. Omar says he's grateful, and I'm still your attorney. Thanks. Big hug, Omar. Hassan says, will we go rehearing with all panel? Hassan, I need to do more research on that, and I need to talk to my colleagues about it. Unfortunately, I do not have the amount of knowledge about the makeup of the panel that some litigators have who do appeals all the time, and that's really whose guidance we need right now. 15 judges with original judges panel. See, I need to confer with my DVs. They have more expertise right now. In the appeals court, 15 judges. So it means we need 7.5 to go for us. 8 would be good. Okay, tell us about a motion to dismiss. Is it end of lawsuit? Well, this isn't about a motion to dismiss. This is about an appeal. Actually, I don't know the context for your question. I don't know if you're talking about DVs. I need more context in a question, okay? I don't know what your visa category is. Okay, Samir says, please try to talk to the real people of the USA who are known worldwide. If you can't do anything, it wouldn't ease their suffering of waiting 4 years, not 4 months. Samir, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, but I'm here to talk about the opinion in the order because I want people to understand the process and what happened. I think you deserve that. You deserve much better than what you're getting, but I at least think that you should be explained what happened, right? Lumda was your paralegal. Lumda was great. She's no longer with Morrison Urena, of course, but thank you for acknowledging your paralegals because they did great work. Okay, why Judge Mehta thought he can override the law by reserving visas for 2020 and 2021. Okay, the law did not say that he couldn't do it until yesterday, okay? I mean, if you want to see Judge Mehta's reasoning for why he thought the remedy was appropriate, go back to his order. He explained it in 90 pages. All 5 of his orders, okay? He explained, Judge Mehta never hides the ball. If he has an order, he's going to explain why he's coming to that conclusion. Sahel says, can you talk about national interest waiver? I just completed my master's in USA looking for options that I can apply for green card. Great. Congratulations on completing your master's. I am not an expert in national interest waiver employment visas or employment visas at all. I recommend that you seek the guidance, even if you have to pay for it, from an attorney who does nothing but that. I'm a firm believer in people being experts at what they do. Okay. Um, Somebody I met in San Diego the other day, Avril Ruthenberg, and Ellis Porter. I think they're based out of Chicago, but she works remote. That's all she does, national interest waivers, where I've only done one. That's all she does. So it's better to talk to somebody who does them all the time. Lamine says, in my opinion, if we give up, it will be a huge win for the injustice and it affect the DV in the future and maybe immigration in total. I just can't stand that we lost despite we were right. I agree, Lamine. Okay. But also, I agree, but also I'm just one attorney, right? So it's expensive to devote legal resources to fighting an appeal and even like to in bank or to Supreme Court or something like that. And if I'm the only one that wants to do it, that's a problem. So I need to talk to my colleagues and see where they're at. Okay. Did Judge Mehta accept the challenge? The second time I got asked this question, still doesn't make sense. Judge Mehta hasn't been challenged. His decisions have been reversed. Okay. I think the USA is a legal country like no other. It is not like no other, for good and bad. How long will the panel review take? Oh, panel review. The in-bank review, judges do not have a deadline, okay? That applies at every level. So we don't know. So if you're going to start asking that question before I even do the appeal, that makes me not want to do the appeal, because that means that I'm going to get this question every day while we're waiting for the appeal, and I can't do that. I just did that for 3 or 4 years. So let's stop with that how long will it take thing. Right now we're at the point of whether or not we want to do it. What is the role of the Office of Legal Advisor of Consular Affairs? Do you ever interact with them on these immigration issues and disputes? I sue them. I have to interact with them at times when, like, let me see here. There's a U.S. attorney in D.C. called Joseph Carilli, who half the time he worked for them as a legal advisor and half the time as an attorney, so where I didn't know when I was talking to him which role he was playing. For the most part, though, they are the people who are trying to decide how to shut us down, how to keep immigrants out of the U.S., and they are not my favorite people, right? I don't want to dox them or anything, give you their names and addresses and phone numbers and email addresses. So I'm going to stop short of that, but I'm going to say their role is very different right now than what it would be if I was president, because right now their role seems to be preserving the bureaucracy that is has a fixation that immigrants are bad for the USA, specifically certain immigrants. And I think that office they just need to fire everybody and start all over, because there's an animus there that's not right. It's wrong. It's racist. I'm not a fan. Okay, Omar says, if it wasn't only Judge Mehta, there is a Judge Chutkan too. So there are 2 federal judges do wrong things. Yeah, isn't that funny? Judge Mehta and Judge Chutkan did not do wrong things. This higher court said that they did, okay, which is different. What's the news about the Gomez class? I'm not class counsel, so you can get the news directly from Gomez class counsel, but major setback that I've been discussing, okay? Please, you can leave the victims alone without your intervention. They are ill because of your law, so leave them alone to do their thing without taking into account the law. Okay. I think when people get upset, it's a little hard to communicate sometimes. I'm not sure what I understand. Okay. Masanissa says, you look so sure that Trump will win. In the US, there is a strong feeling that Trump will win. He is polling better. Okay. Um, there is a debate tomorrow night, and it'll be Trump and Biden on stage, and we'll see which one of these two old men do a better job convincing the middle. But I am prepared for, well, I don't think anybody is prepared, but I think it is more likely that Trump will win this election than Biden. I mean, the MDB lottery, can you tell me it's the end of lawsuit if I get motion dismissed? Which fiscal year, Hameen? Do I supposed to guess? If you are a DV 2024 selectee and you have a pending mandamus lawsuit and the government files a motion to dismiss, it is not the end. Your attorney needs to file a response in opposition to that motion to dismiss, and the lawsuit needs to continue on. Don't give up just because the government puts up the least amount of resistance. Okay. Lamine says, so the full panel is like the jury. Not exactly, but kind of. Juries have to be unanimous in some situations. It's a little different. Also, juries are finders of fact, and this is about the law. This isn't about fact. If you look at the statement of issues that were appealed, they were all issues of law, not issues of fact. Okay. Omer says, I knew my words is for them. How did the federal judge made same wrong decision? Right. I understand what you're saying. Omar's saying, if Judge Mehta was wrong, isn't that weird that Judge Chutkan was also wrong? Well, you make a good point. The two judges that considered the issues came to a different conclusion than the judges that did 17 pages. Okay. Henny says, it's funny to see that Biden can lose election because non-controlled immigration, but at the same time, he is fighting immigrants at court. It is crazy. It is crazy. What's happening on the television sets, both Republican and Democrat channels, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, is this fake view of what's actually happening. And it's not the real thing that's happening. I mean, the real thing that happens is Biden and Blinken are doing everything in their power to throttle and control and limit legal immigration to the U.S., and that's causing a surge at the southern border. And but then Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas, Cousin Border Patrol, Troy Miller are doing everything they can. ICE, they're rounding up people and they're removing them. But that's not getting on the news. That all the asylum seekers, that half of them end up getting, put on planes and removed from the U.S. So it's like there's so many myths that are being spread in the news right now. I wonder if they're being spread by Russia or China or somebody just to spread discourse in the U.S. where people disagree with things, because it's not reality. When I watch the news, I'm like, what are they talking about? Okay. What would be the best outcome after this? The best outcome, my dream outcome is that everybody accepted that it's over. And then quietly, I figured out a way to appeal this decision and win. And then I could come back and say, oh, surprise, it's not over. That would be my dream. But I don't know if those two things can happen. I don't know if I could get everybody to accept that it's over. And I don't know if I could come up with a way to appeal this and win. Both of those are if I could choose my outcome and I could dream about it, that's what my dream would be. There's a question in French, and my French is not great. The solution to make maintenance, or to make now. What is the solution to make now? Next week, we will probably have more information about that, about whether or not we will be letting it go, seeking in-bank review, or seeking an appeal to the Supreme Court. But again, appeal to the Supreme Court is a long-term deal. So either way, I think that it's best if everybody just accept that it's over and don't have hope in something that it's just entirely very slim that we could move forward. Okay. That didn't make sense. It is probably over. That's all I could say. Next week, I think I could say something a little bit more definite. Omar says he'll be disappointed if we give up without doing in bank. I know it takes time, but we already waited 4 years. U.S. is better than any other country for us. We likely all these times we lived in U.S. What if we do in bank and then it's stuck in bank for 5 years? So lots of things to consider, Omar. I hear what you're saying, but we appreciate you and your colleagues. Thank you. I appreciate my colleagues too. And I appreciate you all. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to represent Diversity Visa 2020 and Diversity Visa 2021 selectees. It has been inspiring to see how you all have become friends and close in Telegram, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, and forums, even though you have different nationalities, religions, political preferences. Everybody's so different, and yet there's something that we all have in common, and I think that that's really beautiful. And if there's one thing we take away from that, it's that we realize that all these things like immigration restrictions and borders and all these things are artificial, and the fact that everybody shares this common dream, that's real. Okay. Last question. Hanny says, which law school would you advise to start? Not much too expensive? Exactly. Do not go to the expensive law school. I went and looked at the list and found the cheapest one I could go to. And I still have a ton of debt. Okay. But that's my advice. But also don't go to a law school that's about to go out of business. Okay. My law school went out of business. Well, they closed it. So anyway, I got my degree first though. Really. Okay. I will see you all next week for episode 84 of Let's Talk Immigration. And now I'm going to switch over in a few minutes to a live with Zahir in Arabic. So if you know somebody who their English isn't great, but they want to understand things better, we'll do Arabic in a few minutes. Thank you.